Hey, good morning, everybody. How can you detect or determine if two moving averages are parallel? Um, so let's see. I'll take this chart here, and I'm going to try and get some different moving averages on here. Ones that I guess work a little closer together. So let's. So give me a moment while I set up some moving averages here. Something to work with. Alright, let's get rid of the EMA and get rid of the SMA. And I think I'm going to put something a little more exotic on here. Yeah, we'll do the HMA and let's see. And maybe something like the TSF. Yeah, alright, I think this will work. Let me just change the color so they're a little easier to see. Alright, so I think right here, this section right here, looks like those two moving averages are fairly parallel. So we'll let BloodHound tell us that if they are parallel, at least parallel within a certain degree, right? Because I think it's going to be pretty rare that you ever find any two different moving averages, 100%, 100% parallel. They're going to be parallel within a certain, margin. So, yeah, all right, so we'll work with that there. All right, so let's see, let me clean things up a little bit here. Scoot that down. Minimize that. All right. So, right, for anybody new in the room, so what I did is I loaded up, as you saw earlier, I loaded up a chart template, and that chart template is just a default one here, and it already has BloodHound on the bottom of my chart here. So that template already loaded BloodHound onto my chart. So to start working in BloodHound, I'm going to use the button up here. It's going to say empty template because BloodHound is blank right now. We haven't started working with it. So, and all right, so there's our BloodHound interface that we can start working in. So there's a key element to determining, if two moving averages or basically any two plot lines are parallel. Right. What you need to do is you need to measure the angle of the plot lines. So we need to look at the slope of these two plot lines. And while BloodHound does have a slope solver, but the slope solvers doesn't actually tell you what the slope is. It just tells you the result if the slope is up or if the slope is down. It doesn't actually output the slope in in a measured form in degrees or ticks. So we're going to actually have to use an indicator here that comes with NinjaTrader, and hopefully I can remember this. Let's see, one of these was a slope. There we go, the linear regression slope. So even though it says linear regression slope, it can still be used. I kind of did some experimenting with it, and it still can be used to determine the slope of any kind of indicator out there. So what we're going to do, let's see, yeah. So I'll kind of put this on the chart so we can actually see visually what BloodHound is reading. So let's add that on there. And what we're going to do is, see, we'll put the HMA. We'll feed the HMA into this indicator here. So we're going to use the linear regression slope to actually visually see what the slope angle is of the HMA that's on the chart now. All right, there's our HMA, and yeah, there's no plot to select. All right, so I think that's it. And oh, so here's a key thing, is that we need the slope to be 1, or I mean the period to, well, or be 2. Sorry, that's right. So to determine a slope, you need at least 2 points of reference to calculate a slope. So the period will have to be a minimum of a 2. And let's change the color here. We'll make it brighter. All right, and oh yeah. So what I did is I opened up the indicator window and clicked OK. And so of course NinjaTrader wants to refresh the chart, right? But in order to refresh the chart, BloodHound needs to close the interface so the chart can be initialized, for a technical term here. And so since I didn't name my template yet for BloodHound saying, hey, would you like to name your template? So let's go ahead and do that before the template actually closes. If you say no, that's okay. You're not going to lose your data. BloodHound will still remember everything that's done, even if you don't have a template name. But you definitely don't want to shut down. You don't want to exit or close NinjaTrader without naming your templates. You will lose all your data if you do that. All right, let's see. Let's get rid of these extra indicators on here. All right, so we can, let's see, let's put a line on here. All right, so we have a line on here kind of representing the 0 value. And we can see that let's see, right about, yeah, so as the indicator starts sloping up, let's see, right about there, right, we can see that the slope, so this line represents the value of the slope, and actually probably a line is probably not the appropriate way to visualize the slope value. So I should change this to a dot. Yeah. Okay, so there we go. So now they're visually points on a graph. So whenever the dots are, or the value is above the 0 line, what that's saying is that the slope of our moving average is in a positive direction. It's actually sloping up now. And whenever the indicator or the moving average starts sloping down, this dot is going to go into a negative value here. So if the the angle of our two moving averages are the same, what's going to happen is their slope value, all right, their slope value will also be the same as well, as measured by this linear regression slope. So while it's not perfect, let's see. Yeah, I mean, I can see here that it's not quite perfect, but I think it gets us in the ballpark. With the absence of having an indicator that calculates, the true perfect slope, this linear regression slope indicator will suffice. So this is what we're going to do, is we're going to get BloodHound to actually compare the linear regression slope of our two moving averages, and if these values, right, represented by the dots, if they're the same value on the same bar or really close to each other, then we know that the moving averages are essentially parallel or close enough to parallel for our needs. So this is what we're going to do, is we're going to put this linear regression slope into the comparison solver of BloodHound and see if they're within a certain margin of error. So, all right, so let's get BloodHound back up here. And I'm going to delete this guy. And I'll start working on a new logic board right away. And let's see. I got butterfingers today. There we go. Okay, so we'll put the indicator comparison solver on here. And let's see. I'll have to think of a good name for that in just a moment. All right, so as we commonly do, typically when we're setting up the comparison solver, right, we want the faster moving plot line in indicator A section here, and typically we'll put the slower indicator in indicator B. But in this case, we're actually trying to figure out if two plot values are the same. So it really doesn't matter in this case if we're looking for two plot values to be equal to each other. Right, and that's what we're doing, is we're looking for the linear regression slope values to be essentially equal to each other for the two different moving averages. So all right, so let's see, we're going to do some nesting inside of BloodHound here. So let me grab the linear regression slope, and then I'm going to nest the HMA. Yeah. So what I'm doing is just single click on the HMA and then click the nested input. There we go. So now we can see that the HMA is being fed into the linear regression slope, just the same as I did actually on the chart. And the next thing I'll need to do is change my period for the linear regression slope, and I'm just using the default period for the HMA, so that's good. Alright, so there's one of our moving averages set up, and next we'll set up the TSF in here. And there we go. Alright, oops, change it to 2. And next, go find the TSF. And I was just using the default values for the TFS as well, so I'll leave those alone. And I'm just going to double check here. Yeah, 3 and 14 for the TSF. Okay, looks good. Okay. Now here's where things get a little different, since we're looking for indicator A and indicator B to be equal or close to equal. We're going to have to use this neutral output here. All right, we're going to use this neutral output. So let's set these to 0 and set the neutral to 1. Set that neutral to 1. Set those to 0, like so. Now, if you're looking for something to be equal, generally speaking, there is no trend direction. If two things are equal, so that's why we put a 1, or set the neutral to 1 for both the long and the short, because this really isn't going to tell us the direction of anything. It's just going to say are two values similar or equal. Now the next step is, the way this is set up is that they have to be perfectly equal. So this neutral is essentially, it's a zone set by these outer two parameters here. Right, so this neutral zone is defined by these outer two parameters. And you can see right now they're set to 0 ticks. So that means that the neutral, or A to B neutral, they have to be exactly equal. And that's rarely the case. So let's we'll start off with a small value here, and we'll just see if the two slopes of these indicators are equal by by a certain slope here. Let's see. And for some reason in my VMware these numbers don't update unless I click off and click back on. There we go. So now we can see the values here changed to 0.1 ticks. So we have this neutral zone defined here. So it's gonna look to see if the values are, if these linear regression values are equal to each other with a 0.1 tick, deviation difference. Let's see, for some reason, looks like my chart is not updating. Let's see what's going on here. There we go. And so, yeah, we can see that it looks like, this one bar here. So remember, when you're looking at a slope, you're taking, essentially, you're looking at what represents the current bar and looking back one bar. So a slope requires 2 bars, and so we can see that between these 2 bars, these two moving averages were essentially parallel. Parallel within a 0.1 tick slope difference there. And yeah, even though it doesn't look like these two guys are parallel, they are close enough. So let's see. Yeah, here we go. These here look a little more obvious. So once you start getting into some steep angles on the chart, it really becomes difficult for the eye to see if things are parallel, especially as the slopes are changing angles at such a steep angle. They're also changing angles into parallelness and then shifting out. It's hard for the eye to pick that up. Let's see, over here, these two guys, that makes that's a little more obvious that those are parallel. So right, so that's how you would check to see if two plot lines are parallel. Now, it doesn't have to be moving averages. You could use this same concept on stochastics, CCI, MACD, momentum, whatever it is. I'm not sure what context this is being used in, but that's essentially what the question was that came in. So, all right, I see some questions came in here. Okay, I think I understand your question here, Vladimir. All right, so the question is, all right, so we want an up signal when the close is greater than the last inflection point or reversal point of the 8-period EMA. Let's see, and if the last inflection was a peak. So Vladimir, I'm not sure what you mean by that, if the last inflection was a peak. But let's see, let me get an EMA on here, and so we can visualize this, see what's going on here. All right, I'll make those other two moving averages a little slimmer, and the EMA is going to be red. All right, so we have an EMA 8. And all right, so let me look for a little uptrend here to find our long condition, our long signal out of BloodHound condition here. All right, so let's use this, I guess. So, all right, Vladimir, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think what we're doing is we're looking for this inflection point here, and then we want to know if the closing price is above that inflection point. And if it is, I believe that's when we want a long condition or a long signal out of BloodHound. I think that's what we're looking for. And for the reverse, no, that's incorrect. Okay. Sorry, Vladimir. Can you try and explain again, please? Let's see. Close is greater than the next. So we want the close is greater than the next to last one inflection. Let's see, next. Let's see. Are you trying to reference an inflection further back, I guess? Wow, I think this question, Vladimir, really is one that really, oh, okay. All right. So, all right, so I think this is what we're being asked. So we're looking at this inflection point. We'll extend this out. And we're looking to see if the close breaks above that peak, that high point of the EMA. So is that correct? All right, Vladimir, if you could just confirm if that's correct. So I think we're looking for the closing price to break above this pivot point on the EMA. Okay, that's correct. All right. So that would be a long condition, and so a short condition here. So all right, yeah. So here, this that would be a short condition there. All right. Well, so the one thing that's critical to this, Vladimir, is finding an indicator, right, that's going to identify these pivot points, right, these inflection points here of the EMA. So I think the swing high-low indicator that comes with BloodHound will probably do that okay. At least that's the only one that I know of that we can work with. Yeah, the key is to find an indicator that's going to mark those pivot points for you the way you'd like to see them. So for now, we'll just have to go with the swings, highs, lows here. All right, so we're gonna put the swings, highs, lows on there, and I think we're only interested in the widest tops and the widest bottoms, and the tightest plots here. Those are I set to transparent. So you know, I basically set them up the way I typically use them in this workshop, and then to set a default setting for them. So that's why these two always open up as transparent. All right, and let's see. So the next key thing to do is we need to input the 8-period EMA into this indicator. So that way we can visually see what's happening on the chart. All right, let's take a look at that and see what we get. And great, I think actually that's working good. I think, well, actually I'll leave the, I think I might need to change the swing no, not the sensitivity, sorry, the number of swings. I might need to change that to 4, but well, I'll just leave it as is for now, and if I find a situation where essentially the key thing is to make sure that you know, to make sure that these plotted lines stay up long enough for price to break them, right? Or in this case, not break them. And all right. All right, so we definitely have an ideal situation here that we can find a short signal. And let's see if we can find a situation for a long signal here. And okay, here we go. So there's a long condition there, and to fill in the gaps there, so we're looking at, there we go, that point. All right, let's start putting the pieces together in BloodHound to do this. Once again, we're doing a comparison here, right? So we have the magenta hash line, and what we're doing is we're looking at the closing price and comparing it to the magenta hash line, seeing when the closing price essentially crosses over. So yeah, so this is, I'd consider this a crossover situation. So we're looking for when the closing price crosses over our magenta line to get a short signal. And so remember, our magenta line is the widest bottoms, right? The widest bottoms is magenta, and so the blue is the widest tops plot. Right, so it's key to knowing which plots you're looking at. All right, let's shrink up my chart a little bit. There. Okay, so all right, I'll just start a new logic template there, and let's see. So let's see, I'm trying to think of a name that for this. Let's see, how about a price? price break of the EMA pivot point, I guess. Pivot point or swing point. Let's see. So crossover, yep. We're looking for a crossover. You know, I could use the comparison. If I use the comparison, you know, that's going to provide an output whenever the closing price is below our magenta line. But a crossover, the crossover solver, the reason why I'm using that is because the crossover gives a nice clean 1 bar output or a 1 bar signal, right? So a crossover only occurs on 1 bar. You can't have multiple bars in a row where something is crossing over. So the crossover gives us a cleaner 1 signal look. So that's why I went with the crossover. And alright, so we're looking for the closing price. So I'm going to take a shortcut here and just change the type to closing price. Looking for the closing price to cross over our swings, highs, lows, widest plot lines. So here comes the key, just setting that indicator up here. Alright, let's go find the swing, highs, lows. There we go. And then the next step is to nest the EMA into it. Right, just as I did on the chart, we also need to nest our EMA into that. And let's change the period to an 8 period. And the EMA only has 1 plot, so we don't have to worry about that. But the swing highs lows has 4 plot lines, so we need to set these up. So, all right, so we want, let's see, when the closing price crosses down below the widest bottom. Remember, the magenta is the widest bottom plot. So here we go, widest bottom. We want a short signal when that gets crossed, and we're going to use the widest tops to generate a long signal. And yeah, all right, there we go. So let's open this, make this a little wider. So we can actually see here, we actually got, yeah, 2 crosses. So we got our first one, then we got another little blip down, like so. And yeah, we also got price breaking. Let's see, where's this coming from? So it looks like that is coming from, there we go, from that point right there. Yeah. Alright, so there we go. And in its simplest form, that's how you build that condition. So, yep. So that short signal there is coming from that most recent pivot point on the EMA there. So, all right, so we can see we have 2 different time frames. The chart on the right is going to be our default time frame. So the chart in which BloodHound's running on, and then we have a higher time frame chart on the left here. Alright, so condition 1 is we actually want the signal on the reversal bar, so we're using these hybrid Renko bars. So we want the signal on the reversal bar. Alright, and on the larger chart, let's see, the entry bar must cross the moving average. And okay, so we're looking for a crossover. On the larger chart, we're looking for a crossover. All right. Okay, so let's see. condition 3, the close of the reversal bar on the trade chart or the default chart, which is our lower time frame as well, must be above the moving average on the larger chart. Let's see. Let's see, Marcy, I don't have any moving average indicators that can do that. So in order to compare like the close on the default chart to an indicator running on a different chart or a higher time frame chart, you're going to need a specialized indicator that can actually do that. BloodHound's not quite that sophisticated yet. With BloodHound version 2, you'll be able to do that. But currently, right now, with the way solvers operate in BloodHound right now is, let's see, let me just add I'll add another chart on here. We'll just make this a 15-minute chart to represent a higher time frame. So right now you can see the entire solver is operating on one time frame or the other. So right, this crossover here, which actually let me give this a name here. I should name my solver, shouldn't I? Okay, there we go. So this solver, right, it's operating on the default time frame, and so everything, so the indicators or the data that's used in indicator A and the data used in indicator B are also on the same time frame, and there's no way to have indicator B to be operating on a different time frame. So if I take this solver and if I move it down onto the 15-minute chart, well, now once again everything inside this solver is operating on the 15-minute chart. So the closing price is from the 15-minute chart, and the swing high lows of the EMA is also from the 15-minute chart. So there's no way to mix and match. You need a specialized indicator to do that. So we would take a specialized indicator that can function on a different time frame while inside a BloodHound. So so that component wouldn't be possible without a special coded moving average. And I do seem to remember that there are some like that on big mics, uploaded to big mics, so that might be possible. So if that was possible, I think what I would suggest is let's open this up a little bit. Yeah, so what I would suggest is, for condition 3, this crossover that you're looking for, or I'm sorry, actually it's a comparison solver. So you're looking for just to make sure that the closing price is above your moving average on the higher time frame. So you would use the comparison solver, and you would put that comparison solver on this chart, on this default chart. And your special, your customized moving average would be running on your default chart, but it would be, but because of the special programming of the moving average, it would actually be using data from this higher time frame chart. So let's see. All right, so Marcy's got some comments in here. Let me take a look at these. Yeah. So okay. So Marcy's commenting that essentially she's having what essentially is synchronization error issues, and that's because of the fundamental way that charts operate. We're having this synchronizing issue. So the issue is that this reversal bar up, it closes. This reversal bar up closes and occurs much sooner than it will on the higher time frame. And so essentially several bars will have to go by on the lower time frame before the bar on the higher time frame actually closes and can be read. So Marcy, one thing to help you out with this synchronizing issue of Renko bars and multiple time frames, I've done a couple of workshop videos explaining essentially how NinjaTrader operates across multiple time frames, and it's a particular I don't want to say it's an issue because it's not a problem. There's nothing broken, but it's just the fundamental way of how non-time-based bars operate and how you get the information from a bar that doesn't work on time but works on price, because NinjaTrader looks at the time of the bar, in order to get the bar information. So I guess without getting too carried away with the theoretical explanation, let me just show you some of the videos that you'll want to watch to understand how to synchronize or the issues involved with synchronizing Renko bars. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I think here we go. I think this video, the second one down here, is probably the better video to watch. I go into a lot of detail explaining, how NinjaTrader works, and the things that you're going to have to deal with when you're trying to synchronize non-time-based bars. So the Renko is not time-based, the range bar is not time-based. So when you're working with those types of bars, there is that syncing issue within NinjaTrader. Alright, but for now, let's see. Okay, so Marcy is asking, is there a way to get the crossover on the larger chart before the cross of the bar, let's see, before the close of the bar on the larger chart, to give an alert on? Yes, there is. Alright, so let's see, let's close that. Oh, let me bring up Marcy's screenshot here. So what Marcy's asking is, can we get this crossover? Can we get this crossover on the higher time frame chart as soon as it happens, before the bar closes? So instead of waiting for the bar to close, we want to know as soon as price just crosses up or above before the bar closes. And yes, you can do that. However, it changes the fundamental way of how your indicators are going to work and how BloodHound is going to work. And let's see. Oh, I added that 15-minute chart onto the on here. And actually, since I don't need it, I'm going to take it off. But I'm going to have to refresh the chart because of that. There we go. So the way you can determine if a crossover occurs before the bar closes is that's what this NinjaTrader function calculate on bar close does. So if you set that to false, what that means is that your indicators are calculating in real time. So your indicator does not wait for the bar to close. And so if you put BloodHound If you set BloodHound, set that to false, then BloodHound's going to be calculating all your indicators in real time on every incoming tick. And so that's how you can determine if a crossover happens before the bar closes. But it will totally change the way all your indicators are operating in a way that you're not used to. So you will have to, that kind of opens up another can of worms when you do that. Not a can of worms, but it puts the indicators, complex indicators, they start operating in a different mode that most people are not used to. So to give an example here, let's see, I still have my, okay, so I'm still connected to my data, and we're on NQ. All right, so you can see that, right, that all my indicators, they're stopping on they only calculate to the bar that's closed, right? So if I take this EMA and I set the calculate on bar closed to false, right? The indicator did stop where the dot is, but now you can see the indicator is actually functioning on the bar that's open, and you can see the indicator is moving in real time. It's it's updating itself in real time there, and so sometimes you get false signals when that happens, especially. Let's see. How if I go to a 1 minute chart here? A 1 minute chart's a great example of this. And so I'm going to set up an example here. And oops, I grabbed the wrong one. Shoot, crossover. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up BloodHound so it looks at the slope of our EMA in real time, and we may or may not get a good example of what's going on here. So, and shoot, there's another weird thing with this VMware. For some reason the crossover solver always, not always, but the crossover solver sometimes puts NinjaTrader into this pause while it thinks about it, and it doesn't do it anywhere else. Okay, anyways, I didn't want that crossover solver. Let me get rid of that. I wanted the slope solver here. And I'll set this up to look at our EMA 8 that we have on the chart. And then the next thing I need to do is set BloodHound so that calculate on bar close is set to false. And with any luck, if price pushes up, it'll get our EMA to start sloping up, but it kind of looks like we're in a downtrend today, doesn't it? Or at least, yeah, it sure does. So, oops. Let's see. Here, I'll use the simulated data feed to kind of show this example. All right, let's disconnect there. Connect to our simulated data feed. And how about if I put this on a 5 range chart? Yeah. All right, so I'll move the trend up. And what we want to watch is is watch how BloodHound's output will change in real time here. All right, let me get this sloping down and see if I can get the EMA to slope down. So there we go. So see, right now it's sloped, right? So the slope of that EMA is down. So BloodHound gave us a short signal, while while the bar is building. And come on, simulated data feed. And so right now the slope is down, and I'll push the price up, and we'll see now all of a sudden we got an up signal. So you can get these false positive signals occurring here, right? So when the bar first opened, remember we had a short signal, and then but before the bar closed, I should say as the bar closed, it turned into a long signal. So when you're working with calculating on bar close, just be aware that you can get these false positive signals out of your indicators, right? So the bar can open, and you could, just like you saw there, the bar opens and boom, your indicators tell you, oh, you're in a short situation. Go short, and then the bar, but by the time the bar closes, your indicators tell you, oh, you're in a long situation. So those are the pros and cons of working with calculating bar close faults. So just something to be aware of. Right. Let me look through some of these comments here. All right, so Marcy's asking, what if price on the larger chart is at the moving average, or something like 0.2 ticks above that moving average, or below the moving average? So in order to do that, you still have to run BloodHound with calculate on bar close equal to false, and you could do that. So I guess what Marcy's getting at is, instead of getting a signal as soon as price crosses our moving average on the higher time frame, we wait for price to get at least like 0.2 ticks or 1 tick above the moving average, just to try and help eliminate any of those false signals, because what could happen in real time is price could pop up here above our moving average, give us a signal, and then just reverse down and then reverse on us again and keep on going down. So to build in a safety factor, Marcy's asking, well, maybe we can make sure that price, pops above our moving average by a point, by a tick or two. And sure, yeah, that's definitely a possibility. So you know what? I guess I don't have any other questions coming in. So let me build this as best I can, with the limitations that we have, since we don't have a moving average indicator that's going to accomplish item number 3, but we can do what we can, do the best we can for now. All right, so I'll build 1 and 2, and if I can think of anything for 3, I'll try and take care of item 3 as well. All right, so let's see. I need to put 2 charts together first. So give me a moment while I set up my charts. So, one thing I should mention as well, going back to this calculate on bar close false setting. So, if you need to run BloodHound with COBC, I call this COBC for short. If COBC needs to be set to false, you can't backtest an indicator if an indicator needs to run with COBC false, right? You just can't backtest it because the reason why you can't backtest it is essentially what I was trying to show you here is that you don't know what happened. You don't know what the output of that indicator or any indicator is when the bar opens, because you're going to get a signal as soon as the bar opens, and you don't know what that indicator value is when the bar closes, right? Historical charts are always showing you when calculating a bar close is true. It's always showing you COBC true. So when you're trying to backtest an idea, you can only visually see and backtest with COBC true. You can never backtest with COBC false on a historical chart. So the only way you can really backtest a system that has to run with COBC false is to use market replay data. It's the only way you can get a reliable backtest results. So just another complication to be, well, not complication, but just another, just another thing that you have to be aware of, when you're working with COBC faults. So, all right. So let's see. I have an SMA 10 right on, on the higher time frame, and let's see. Let me take a look at this chart here. Probably up that number there so it looks a little closer to the chart, and there we go. Alright, so item 1 is pretty darn easy. You guys should all know. We're just going to look at use the inflection solver to find the reversal bar on this default chart here, or the lower time frame. Alright, let's let me get my chart back in order here. There we go. Alright, so I guess for now I'm going to call this like a multi-time frame, I don't know, crossover. Alright, so item number 1 is essentially we're just looking at the closing price. Right, that's the first thing that we want to know is, did the closing price, change directions on us like so? And oh yeah, look at this. See how look at how this inflection solver is operating right now. See, it had given us some long signals there, some false. Right, so there's a false positive long signal when you're operating with COBC faults. So just Some things you got to be aware of. That's why you can't backtest on a static chart. So because of that situation. And let's take a look at the other chart here. Oh, I'm on different instruments. Let's see. We'll put this on the NQ as well. And well, I guess in this situation we don't have to worry about it, but you know, if our moving average was down here a little further, you know, we could have gotten price crossing above our moving average on the higher time frame, and then we had the bar popping up, but then you can see all these wicks, the bars popped up, and we would have gotten a long from the inflection, but then ultimately the bars closed down. Right, so those are kind of the things that you have to be aware of when you're working with COBC faults. All right, so let's go to item 2 here. So we're looking for, on the larger chart, we're looking for the bar or the closing price to cross our moving average. All right, so BloodHound, we need to make this other Renko chart in BloodHound here. And let's see, I'm using an 8-2. All right. So I'll make the chart, and next thing I need to do is refresh the chart to get NinjaTrader to build that data for us. There we go. So let's grab a crossover solver. Put the crossover solver on our higher time frame chart. And we're looking for the close across the let's see, SMA 30. All right, I'll set indicator A to our closing price, and I'll set indicator B section to our SMA 30. So I just need to change the period here. There we go. And let's see. I think I'll need to switch over to simulated data feed again, so that way we can see some stuff. You know, some signals actually occurring here. And also, all right, so on our logic board here, I've got one solver, and let me name this solver. There we go. And next I'll add that crossover solver I just made. So when we look under existing nodes, we can see that now we have multiple time frames here. So we have solvers that are working on the default time frame, and we have solvers that are working on the higher time frame, or our 8 Pro Renko. So put that on there. And so we can take a look at this. And let me change my crosshairs to global crosshairs. All right, so there we go. We can see the short signals here. If we look at the higher time frame chart where my cursor is, we can see, right, we did get a cross down. So the bars crossed down on that white moving average. And then here we can see where the bars crossed up. So, and you can really see this really shows how crazy things can get when you're when you're using these Renko bars on multiple time frames, right? So you know, on the higher time frame, let's see, let me mark this. You know, the higher time frame, that was the only bar that had a crossover. But as we look on this lower time frame, you know, look, many bars went by, or many bars were built on our lower time frame chart, just while that one bar that actually had the crossover, you know, actually occurred on the higher time frame chart. So, you know, these are some of the other kind of, you know, little oddities that you have to deal with when you're trying to synchronize Renko bars and range bars. You know, any bar that's non-time based, such as that. Tick charts and volume charts are a little easier to work with because you know, they have a fixed, you know, tick charts have a fixed number of ticks, so you can control. So you can, like, say, like, you can, you know, set your default chart, your lower time frame, to a 100 tick chart, and you can set your higher time frame to a 200 tick chart, right? You can make nice, perfect increments, you know, multiples of time frames if you're working with a tick chart or a volume chart or a minute chart. But with these Renko charts, you really don't get that nice multiple of time frames. You really can't set that up with a range or a Renko chart. And let's see. I think the next step is to connect to our simulated data feed. Oh, I was on simulated data feed. Yeah. All right, I'm going to try and get price to come down here a little bit, and let me take a look at the comments while we're waiting for that to happen. And also, actually, let's get my charts set up here a little better. Okay, there. Since I have my global crosshairs turned on, it's kind of helpful to try and get my charts sized the same. Alright, so I'm just going to wait for price to come down a little bit, and look, oh, there we go. So you can see we got that crossover happening on the lower time frame. And let's see, one thing I need to do here in BloodHound is, since we need both of these conditions to happen at the same time, let's connect those together into an AND node. Let's see if this will give us a signal here. Yeah, there we go. Look, I did just happen to get the timing on that right, and it did actually work out. Imagine that. That was good timing there. I'm going to set COBC to false on our indicator here on the higher time frame chart. Yeah, there we go. Cool. All right, so we did actually get it to work out, but once again, it's just kind of luck of the timing, you know, that we actually got on the bars there. But also having COBC false really helps a lot with getting the timing to sync better. Or I should say, with COBC equaling false, really you don't have to worry too much. Synchronizing the two time frames doesn't become as much of an issue as when calculating on bar close is set to true. So, right. And all right. See, Marcy would like to see an example with COBC set to true. And all right, just so happens that it still worked out right there. Let's see if I can find an example where it didn't work out. Yeah, all right, it worked out there. Okay, here we go. So here it looks, yeah, it didn't work out here in this situation here. So some of the things you might have to do is in our crossover solver, you know, to kind of overcome or you know, to help the logic work better between, you know, these multiple time frames. What you may need to do is set this on the crossover solver that's on the higher time frame. The solvers that are on the higher time frame, you may need to increase the look back period. So that might be helpful. Let's see. Oh, well, actually, in this particular case, that actually isn't helping. So let's take a little analysis on what's going on here. So we're looking at the closing price reversal here, right? So we can clearly see on this chart, all the reversal bars are being marked, right, on the reversal bar. But now if we look at the higher time frame when the crossover occurred, you know, look at how many bars went by on our lower time frame before the crossover could be seen, right? So that's kind of the main you know, the main situations that comes up when you're working with these Renko bars in multiple time frames, right? It's just that gap, you know, that gap between, you know, conditions on the lower time frame versus conditions occurring on the higher time frame. So we can see this huge gap here. So okay, so Marcy's got a question here about, once again, with the calculate on bar close, or COBC. So the question is, if we run with COBC set to true, can we still get an alert if the larger chart price is close, not the closed price, but close to the moving average? The answer is no. And then she goes on to ask, or would we still have to wait for the bar to close? Correct. That's just the fundamental way of how NinjaTrader works. So that COBC setting, once to kind of illustrate here, right? We can see the red moving average. It's actually populating on the bar that's actually still being built, right? This bar is still being built, and we can see the other two moving averages only calculate to the bar that's closed, and that is so it's one or the other. You can't mix and match, right? So we can see our red moving average COBC is set to false, and so we can get we can get a value in real time. But if, let's see, one of these other moving averages, I think it's the HMA, yeah, the HMA and the TSF. So the HMA, the calculating on bar close, is set to true, and we're just not going to get any data from the indicator. That's how NinjaTrader works. Yeah, so there is no like gray area. It's one or the other. Yeah, this is how NinjaTrader functions. So who knows? With Ninja 8, I don't know. They might think of a way to to get around that. So we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, so I guess with that explanation of calculating on bar close, with, once again, just to kind of reiterate, with BloodHound, if your BloodHound has calculating on bar close set to true, then everything inside of BloodHound operates on true. You can't mix and match the indicators inside of BloodHound. Right, so all these solvers and all the indicators in these solvers are going to operate with calculate on bar close set to true, or whatever BloodHound set to. That's how everything internal to BloodHound operates as well. So I know this calculate on bar close is a pretty advanced topic. It's something I don't get into a lot, just because it is so advanced, and it's a NinjaTrader function, which I try not to get into NinjaTrader training too much. So, since they have their own training videos, and they have a much bigger staff than we do for training stuff. But this calculate on bar close it definitely does affect BloodHound and Raven and how it functions. So I like to cover at least the kind of the minimum of what's needed there. Have a good weekend. All right, bye bye guys.